it all goes down to interpretation of what those events mean in your life. Because an event can happen and you can view it as like the best thing that ever happened to you, or an event can happen and you can view it as like the worst thing. It's just a matter of how a person views it. And so for one person, it can be the thing that propels them, right, to continue going. And then for another one, it could be the thing that crushes them, right? And just causes them to lose confidence, causes them to lose motivation. But even if that happens, it's not the end of the world, because even when they're down in the dumps like that, they could funnel all that energy, funnel that event, whatever happened in that event, and just use it to propel themselves towards whatever that goal is that they have. It's almost like adding that fuel to the fire. So welcome back, everybody, to another episode here. So in today's episode, we're going to do something a little bit different. And so we're going to do a different format where you're going to be able to tune in to a conversation, kind of like a powwow, like a coffee chat between me and my team. But the purpose of this type of format is just to give people insight as to what's been happening in my life as of late, and where I am right now, and where we're going moving forward. So what we're creating, and then along the way, you'll also get to see how me and my team members we interact with each other, and if they have any questions along the way. We'll treat it also like a Q&A or anything like that. If there's questions that come up along the way that they may be interested in, or they may think that other people might be interested in, or if we have questions that are coming in from the audience, go ahead and feel free to send those in as well, and then we can go ahead and address them on these episodes moving forward. And so we'll keep it open ended, whether it's relating to the work that I'm currently doing, or any of the work that I've done in the past in terms of like coaching or energy work, or working with the mindset. Like any events that are coming up in the future. So let's go into the episode, everyone. Oh my gosh, there's been so many different places that I've been traveling. For the most part, since the beginning of the year, I was traveling a little bit in Las Vegas, just more local. So that's kind of like within a couple hours of where I'm at. I've also traveled to Dallas as well. So I've been traveling to Dallas every single month since February, and so that's been consistently month after month after month. Some other places I've been to is also New Orleans. I went to New Orleans a couple months ago, and then most recently I went to Chicago. So Chicago this past month. And so a couple of different places, Nix, that I've been going to. Some of them were for fun. Some of them for certain like classes or trainings that I was going through.
Considering what you did and the places you went, what are the insights and learnings that you have from that trip?
The insights and learnings from the places that I'm traveling, or that I've been, or like
From your training and classes?
there's been a new lesson, like almost like every single like month, or like that's where we're at the end of the we're almost at the end of the year, but it's like so much has happened, so many realizations and growth. I think some of them is just, I think one of the biggest aspects that I had to learn was so trust in myself, trust in my own intuition, because there's a lot of points in time, there's a lot of things that happened in my life, whether last year, this year, past years, that that caused me to doubt myself, or to question what I was doing, or if I was on the right path, or whether I was good enough, or any of that stuff. And so it's almost like that was one thing that I learned along the way, is that the importance of trusting in myself, trusting in that voice, trusting in my intuition, or where I was being, or what felt right at that time, but also having an overall vision for where I wanted to go. Well, even at times where that might have been a little fuzzy, or it might have changed slightly, but just kind of like staying true to like just knowing that what the path that I was on was to work with people, was to serve, was to create breakthroughs, was to create change. At least for me, as I as I continue on that path, as I continue on the path of learning and growing and learning new things and working with people, it's almost like by doing the act of serving, the act of working with people, it in turn created changes within myself, and just being persistent with that, as well as kind of staying firm and true to what I've been doing for years now, many years, in terms of the personal growth, the personal development, constantly improving, working on the mindset, getting exposed to different materials, trainings, mentors, upgrading my skill set. And regardless of whatever anybody else said or whatever their opinion was, just holding firm to what I believe to be true within me. And that goes back to the trust. So the trust in self. And yeah, don't get me wrong. There's times that it was a little bit difficult. It was a little harder than others, and I was definitely challenged. But I was fortunate in those moments of time to be surrounded by different coaches and mentors remind me, who would remind me to trust in myself, or they would help me to be able to reframe or to see something in a slightly different light, so that I could have that aha moment, so that I could have that new realization, and so that I can continue to grow, so that I can continue to evolve, and so that I can continue to move forward on this path that I am right now. And so that's another realization. Just continue. That's the second one. Just continue to grow. The importance of that, and just knowing that, whatever happened in the past, good, bad, right, wrong, or whatever it is, it's like nothing. It's like it all goes down to interpretation of what those events mean in your life, because an event can happen and you can view it as like the best thing that ever happened to you, or an event can happen and you can view it as like the worst thing, right? And like same event happened, it's just a matter of how a person views it. And so for one person it can be the thing that propels them, right, to continue going, and then for another one it could be the thing that crushes them, right, and just causes them to lose confidence, causes them to lose motivation. But even if that happens, it's not the end of the world, because even when they're down in the dumps like that, they could funnel all that energy, funnel that event, whatever happened in that event, and just use it to propel themselves towards whatever that goal is that they have. It's almost like adding that fuel to the fire. And so nothing's really good or bad, it just is. And so, yeah, just being able to see that in my own life and to be able to experience it and just be able to continue to practice it, even in situations where it might not have been necessarily that easy, but to be able to continue to just keep working and just keep taking those steps forward. Just kind of holding true to, what I believe to be, what my teachings and the things that I've learned, which is just constantly doing the inner work. And if stuff's happening in life that isn't necessarily getting the result, just do the inner work and uncover the root cause, right? Uncover the reasons as to why that might be happening, and to become more clear, to become more in alignment with what's real, what's real for you, or what aligns with the values, even if that means making a shift in the mindset, right? Or either consciously or unconsciously, or shifting or making a change in the with the energy or perspective, in terms of letting go of maybe a way that you might have previously done something in the past. And to give you an example, like, I mean, I do a lot of to up to this day, and that's really what when I got out of the dry cleaning business, right? It wasn't really the most. I look at it now, I'm cool with it. It was a fun experience. But yeah, that's kind of looking back at it now, in the heat of the moment when I was in it. Hell no, it wasn't really fun. At that time, it felt like I was in a jail, in like a self imposed a jail that I couldn't get out of. But I can say that now because like I'm out of it. But it's like, oh, even from there, it's like, oh, what happened there? Why was that situation created, right? Or it's like, what was like, why was I in there, right? And it's like, yeah, heck, yeah, that crushed me. It created a lot of physical pain within my body, to the point where, um, I have to remember that this is a new audience that is probably listening right now, and so like my old audience, they already knew all that story, and that's kind of like what they knew me for. But like when I was in that dry cleaning business, I had a lot of physical pain because I had a lot of stressors in my life. I had people around me, I had situations around me that were creating stress, and that was showing up in my physical body to the point where I had a lot of tightness and tension in my neck and my back and like different parts of my body, to the point where I could barely even like turn my neck to the left or to the right, and I had difficulty getting in and out of the bed in the morning time or getting in and out of the car each day. Like there was some mornings where like I would purposely put the alarm clock on the other side of the room on the days that I would have to wake up, and then the alarm would ring, and I'd kind of have to get up myself out of the bed, right? But it would be so difficult because my body was in pain, and so like I literally had to like roll over and to the point where I kind of get off I put my feet and knees onto the floor. And then so I imagine my knees are on the floor and then my hands are on top of the bed, and I had to kind of almost like push myself up to a standing position. And then from there, I had to like walk over to the other side of the room to like turn off the alarm. And I did this because I was just so overworked and so tired and exhausted that this is how I put the alarm clock over there to make sure I woke up, right? And I just hit the snooze button. But like when I would just the action of like moving from one side of the room to the other, I was literally taking like baby steps because like my body was so stiff, it was in pain, and it's not a fun place to be. You know, when you're like moving around so slowly, like you're stuck in like a 70-year-old body. And at that time, I was in my 30s, right? So to be like moving around like I'm in my 70s, it sucks. And then even like I remember one day, like when I was in the dry cleaning business, and then I had a coworker, like I was doing my work, and then like a coworker was like, he's just kind of making fun of me a little bit, but he's just like, "Oh, hey, grandpa," I was like, "Hey, grandpa," and I'm like, "Huh," it's like, and then it's like at that point, I'm like, "Oh crap," it's like, it's like I got this guy calling me grandpa. I was like, I'm in my 30s, like I'm not old yet. Okay, yeah, yeah, maybe I move old, and like it's like I look all beat up and stuff like that, but it's like, no, man, it's like no more of this crap, It's like, and so that was one of the changing moments for me where I was like, you know what, it's like can't keep doing this. It's like got to make a change in my life. And so it was like that was one of the changing points in my life where I started to try and figure out what was going on within my body and what was causing this pain in my body. But I was like, I was feeling like crap too. And at the same time, I got to do all this work in my cleaners, right? Because we had multiple locations, and we had multiple locations. We had a lot of like moving pieces, like literally moving pieces, like within the business, but also within clothes as well. Uh, and so it was like, it's not it's not sustainable when your body cannot move that well, right? It's like it wasn't. So I needed to find solutions, and so that's when I kind of started to like in whatever free time I had. And obviously, that's not how you run a business, okay? But sometimes there were circumstances that kind of pushed me in that direction that were obviously my creation, but they pushed me in that direction where the format of it, like the whether it was within the relationships or the structure, it kind of put me into that situation. And so, with whatever time I had, I started to look for solutions for how to fix my body, how to make it better, because I was too young because I wasn't I was living my life where I was like I wasn't looking forward to like the next year, right? I was living my life as if I was only focusing on the current day, right? So I do it two ways. So I focus on I focus on just surviving or getting through that day. But when I was in that day, right, like it was the morning time, I only focused on getting through that hour, right, that hour or until like noontime. But like to get to like so yeah, the whole day, like I'd get through the whole day, then like okay, get through like certain like points in the day. But then like in order to get to certain points of the day, I had to like get through that hour, and so that I was very short sighted in terms of like I just got to get through this hour because there's so much pain in my body, and uh, at least for me, I don't know about you or anybody who's had pain before, but at least for me, when I was in a freaking like ton of pain, that was the only way I could distract myself was to focus on just like the next minute or the next 10 minutes, the next hour. And so in the free time, I go see chiropractic. I try different things like chiropractic. I try massage. I try like acupuncture. I try like cryotherapy chambers. I try like different forms of like structural integration. And then I try different types of detoxing or changing my diet. And I know there's other things that I've tried as well, but I tried a lot of different things, and then most of them, and then I do them over and over again because it's like those are the tools I had, and I because you gotta yeah, those were the tools that I had with the limited time that I had available, and they would work. All those things worked for a little bit. It was like temporary relief, so it's almost like you're taking like two steps forward, and then you're taking like a step back, sometimes two steps back, or it felt like it was three. I was like, what the heck am I doing? Is it really working? But it was the best that I could do, and I did that for a while, like a couple years exploring. And so it wasn't until I came across uh, one person that I was saying, one of my teachers, and then he started to do some emotional work with me. And then I remember that time he was like, I come into the office. It's a Sunday, right? Because Sunday was like my only free day, like coming in like on a Sunday afternoon. And so I walk in, and I walk into the office. He's like, "Okay, Edmund." He's like, "Sit down in the." He's like, "Edmund, sit down in the chair." I'm like, "What?" It's like, "Why?" It's just like, "Let me lie down. You know, you can do some body work on me or something like that. Get the pain out of my body." He's like, "No, sit down, Edmund." I'm like, "No." I'm like, he's like, "Sit down." I'm like, "Okay, fine." It's like, "Breathe." So it's like, here's this guy. Like, I'm like stressed out. I'm in pain, and this guy is like, "Sit down." Right? So I sit down, and it's like he's trying to get me to close my eyes and just breathe, like breathe through whatever like stressors and stuff that I got going on in my body. And so he'd do that like each time that I would come in, each Sunday that I would come in to see him. And then I noticed that as time passed, like it was almost like the pain that was in my body, it started to like subside, it started to like decrease. And it was almost like the other modalities that I was doing, they started to work better. They started to be more effective. They started to last a little bit longer. And so that's when I kind of figured out, oh crap, it's like, okay, I might be onto something, right? It's like, oh, maybe it's like, maybe what's happening within me is like, it's not just like the physical, there's like emotional stuff, right? It's like, maybe I gotta like release and let go of this stuff. And so that's what I did at that point forward. And so I just like kept doing more and more of that emotional work and in conjunction with a lot of the physical work. And I started to get better. Eventually, it's like the pain started to go away. I kept doing different modalities, and then eventually, as I started to change my relationship with how I saw the business or how I saw the different people that were involved in the business. So instead of being miserable, instead of seeing myself as like a victim, instead of seeing myself as somebody who didn't have any power, I started to shift internally. And then as that happened, the external circumstances started to shift as well to the point where eventually we were able to sell that business and we were able to get out of that business. And my situation was able to change where I wasn't always in some sort of a self imposed prison where I was just enclosed by like four walls. I was able to be quote unquote free and to move on to the next phase of my life, which was which led me to the healing work, which led me to learning to work with people, learning to work with people who might be experiencing similar types of pain in their body or discomfort. And so as soon as I got out of that dry cleaning business at the end of 2020, all I did was just learn. And so I was learning modality after modality. It's probably over like in the course of a couple of years, I must have learned like over 20 different modalities. And that was a period of my time where I could do that, right? Where I had that fire, I had that because it's like everything that I was learning, it's like I was using that to like heal myself. And then at that time, I was also using it because once I got out of the cleaning business, I was also starting up I was like, okay, I came back into the online world, which where I was talking about this earlier with Rachel here, where I came back online. And so with that, I was like, oh, I was like starting to market myself. I was starting to be visible online again. And so all the stuff that I was learning and doing on myself, I was like, any client or any person that would work with me, I would do that on them as well. It would be my chance to be able to practice. And so that's what I did. It was like, oh, because I was like my mission because I was all about like, hey, it's like I had all this pain in my body before and I had to like figure it out and I had to try out all these modalities. I had to spend all this time and all this money to do it. It's like, okay, if I can help somebody else who might be struggling with that type of pain in their body, who might be struggling in their day-to-day life, it's like, okay, if I can help them shortcut that, then okay, great. And so that's what I did. It's fascinating, yeah. It's just fascinating to see it full circle now. Yeah, it's just fascinating to see how it's all intertwined, like the the emotional, like everything that's happening within us, right, and how that can affect us on the physical level. And it's like with each passing year that goes by, it's like a just deeper awareness, deeper understanding of how deeper levels of awareness in terms of how all this kind of comes into play. And so now it's like especially as I weave in this new modality, it's like, oh, okay. As I weave in the new modality of alpha biotics into my current work that I do with all the energy work and like the mindset stuff. If I had access to that tool back then more frequently, and I had an awareness of what the benefits of that tool were at that time, yeah, heck yeah, it would have changed my healing process. It would have changed the process that I went through. Like the hands-on work now, it's like, yeah, what does it do? It works with the brain, right? It's a hands-on process. That's what I do. So for anybody who's like who's close to me, or whether they're living in the same area as me, or like if I'm traveling and I'm working, like if I'm traveling to different cities and then I'm working with different clients, like yeah, we can do hands-on work where we can literally look at your body and see whether your body is in balance or out of balance. And we can just see that with your physical structure. And then, like, literally, we can get you on a table and then we could send a signal to your brain and then interrupt that stress pattern and then reboot your brain, reboot your system. It's almost like a computer when it gets all slow and it's not working that well. What do? You hit the reset button, right? And then boom, automatically it will start and then it'll start working better. It'll start working faster, more efficiently. So the same thing with the hands-on work that I'm doing. If a person's all stressed out and they're overwhelmed and they're like scattered or they're locked in that fight or flight state and like they're not able to relax, we can get them on the table. We can check. We can check first to see if their body is in balance or out. And if their body's out of balance, it just means that they're locked in that fight or flight state, right? They're locked in that protection mode. And then what do? We can send that signal to their brain to reboot their system so that they can get out of that fight or flight, so they can get into that rest and digest mode. Because not one state is not better than the other. You want to be able to access both of those states, right? The sympathetic and the parasympathetic. It's just that when stress happens, when life happens, people tend to get locked up in one of those states. And that's where it becomes unhealthy. And that's where it starts to show up in the body. And if we can just send that signal to your brain, and then like in point 0.4 seconds, it can literally like scan, your brain will literally like scan the environment to see if there's any danger. If there's not, it's like, okay, boom. It's like a system reboot. And then it's like, okay. And then your brain's automatically balanced. And then you can access those states equally, right? Whether it's like, if you need to be in the sympathetic, that's fine. Or you can go to the parasympathetic. So you can only be in you can only be in one at a time, but you'll be able to access both of them as you need throughout the day. And then what? And the tension, and then we see this every time. Every time I get my hands on a person and we align them, the tension drops in their body. That's what people say. And then we have a test that shows this. And then what happens? And then we check the different parts of their body, right? We check their hips, we check their feet, and they go from being out of balance to being in balance, where things are equal. And then we also check, right, the power within their body. And there's a whole array. And by power, what I mean is that when a person's locked in that stress state, it tends to make it so that one side of the body is weaker than the other side of the body. And that's mainly because, like, well, the side that's all tensed up, like, one side's gonna be tensed up, and that side's usually there's different, testing that we do with that, but, at the end of the day, yeah, we're able to if a person's measuring out of balance, we're able to get them back into balance, and they'll be able to see it either physically in their body or they'll be able to experience it, and so that's something that I wish that I had more access to back in the day when I was in pain. I think I just didn't have a good understanding of what it was, what that process was, and what it was doing to my body. I didn't have that appreciation, right? So I didn't have the consciousness or the awareness of the benefits that it would have on my body. Versus now, oh, it's much more clear in terms of what the benefits are and how this complements the other modalities that are out there. Because at the end of the day, if a person's all stressed out and stuff like that, right? It's like your body's gonna be locked up in stress, right? You're gonna be tensed up. You're probably gonna be running. If you're like anything like me back in the dry cleaner, I was running around like a chicken with my head chopped off. And I was just trying to do like a gazillion things at a time. And so if I had somebody that worked with me in person and was able to reboot my brain and send a signal to my brain to essentially say, hey, to interrupt that stress pattern so that I would be more chill and more calm, then I'd be able to like actually probably make more rational decisions, like better decisions with what was going on. And the beautiful thing about what the work that I do now is it goes hand in hand with all the other modalities that are out there. Regardless of whatever is out there, like what people are currently doing, whether it's like energy work or whether it's like hands-on work, massage or rolfing or like heller work or like if you're saying chiropractic or it's like it just goes hand in hand because at the end of the day there's something called we call it's called like the chain of command. And so there's a chain of command in terms of how things work. And so everything it starts with the brain at the top of the so at the top there's like the brain and then it's followed by the nerves and then it's followed by the fascia and then the muscles and then the bones. And so if a person's brain is out of balance, if a person's like stress, if they're in that fight or flight state, it's creating an imbalance within their body. And so and that's at the top of the chain within the brain. And so if there's that imbalance at the top of the chain, it's creating imbalance within the body, right? And then you're seeing another practitioner for like massage or body work, right? And so that practitioner, say they're doing body work on you, right? They're working against like the grain, right? They're having to work harder than they need to because your brain's out of balance, right? And so it's already pulling your body out of balance. It's creating that extra tension. And so that body worker is like they're having to work harder and it's maybe not as effective as it could be if their brain was in balance. Or same thing if like a person's working on your bones and they're like adjusting you or something like that, right? And say they move the bones out of they move the bones or something or their structure. And then what? If your muscles move the bones, right? So if your muscles are all tensed up and they're already kind of like they're trained to be in a certain pattern or they're used to being in a certain pattern, they're gonna start to like move things back to like the old way of being. And so that's why like I have this like great appreciation for this hands-on work that I'm doing now with people to be able to reboot their brain because if we can reboot their brain, we can send that signal to the brain, right? It's almost like it drops all it makes it so that the other modalities, right? Whether it's the people working with whether it's the energy workers or whether it's the people the massage therapists, the rolfers, the people who work with the fascia, right? Or the people who work with the bones and stuff like that. It just makes their work much more effective because when the brain is balanced the tension is dropped, right? And then the person's more in alignment, and then so it just makes it so that the other work is more effective and they can get deeper, and they're not working against like resistance. That's what I wish that I knew back then because it would have made my life a lot easier. It would have made my journey easier, and I wouldn't have had to spend so much time, and I wouldn't have had to spend so much money on searching and exploring, and I wouldn't have had to have experienced all that pain for so long, right?
If you were to write a message to someone who is currently in a place where he or she things didn't go as planned, or it's something uncomfortable, something that you've experienced in the past or to the past you, what would you say to that person?
It doesn't matter how bad something looks, or it doesn't matter how good something is. It's you always just kind of be in the middle, be in the center. So if you reflect back in your life and then you look at the events in your life where maybe it looked like things were really, really, really bad, right? Or like really painful, or they didn't go your way. Like what usually follows, right? Does it always stay like bad? Does it always stay like crappy? Is it always painful? Or does something different? Does a different result happen? It's almost like a roller coaster, right? It's like when it's like a you're at the bottom of the roller coaster, right? Things are like down in the dumps. Does it get any worse? Can it get any worse? Or does something else follow? Right? Does a positive result follow? Whether it's in the relationships, or whether it's in some sort of relationship, or whether it's something like work related, or um, health related, or something like that. I can't answer for you, but at least in my own life and in people that I've worked with, usually what follows is some sort of change, right? Some sort of breakthrough, some sort of new result. And that happens because when a person's down in the dumps like that, it just gives them enough, it gives them perspective to be able to see, like, oh crap, I created this result in my life. I created this, like, and it's like, I'm not happy, or I'm miserable right now. And sometimes people, they need that in their life in order to be able to create a different decision, to be able to make a new choice in their life. But what it also does is it just gives them clarity. It can give them clarity in terms of like, like my life is like this right now. It sucks, or it's like I'm getting this result. It's like, what do I really want? And then they're able to like identify that with like more like focus and more fire and more energy. And then if they're really, really motivated, right? Then they can make a different decision. And so, and that's gonna be different for each person, right? It's like that dog, right? If you have a dog that's kinda sitting on a nail or something like that, their paws on a nail, right? And they're just kinda groaning, because like the nails on their paws on the nail, right? But it's like, okay, dog, why aren't you moving your paw, right? It's like, it's because it's not painful enough, right? And so it's not till it's like super painful that the dog's gonna be like, it's gonna move its paw off the freaking nail, right? And so I think it's kind of similar with people. It's like if the thing's not painful enough, okay, they can just groan and they can moan and they can complain or they can do whatever. And maybe they're not ready for change. But for some people, it's like when that pain gets enough and they're down at the bottom enough, down in the dumps. Yeah, for those people, it's like, yeah, maybe they're ready to take their paw off that nail, right? And actually go do something different. And so, yeah, nothing's really as bad or as good as it really is. It's just, it just is. And so it's just continue to move forward and just see every experience as a constant evolution, a learning experience, a way to evolve to whatever it is that you want to be. And that's going to be different for each person. And as a coach, as a person who works with people, or even like with friends and family, that's something where wherever a person's at, you just respect it. I stopped trying to change people long ago. It's not even about that, because what I think is right for somebody, it's not even about, like, who am I to say what is right for another person? It's like, it's not my life, that's their life. I'm responsible for my own life, right? I know what's right for me. And that just goes back to the trust in self, right? It's like, so I'm tuned into myself, I'm trusting myself, right? But I can't dictate. I have no right to be able to determine, what's right for another person. That's their role, right? Because each person's on their own journey. Each person's on their own path, right? Their own lessons and their own dreams and their desires. And so that's up to the person, that's the own individual in terms of what's right for them. Well, thank you for tuning in, everybody. If you have any questions or any topics that you like to see more in the future, feel free to go ahead and leave that in the comments section below. Hey, everyone. Before we wrap up, I want to let you know that I'm taking a break from the podcast. It's time for me to focus more of my time and energy on building my in person practice, helping people with things like chronic stress, pain, and performance plateaus so that they can heal and perform at their highest level. That's where I'm choosing to put my focus right now. This isn't goodbye. I'll still be creating content, just in a different format. You'll see me sharing my insights, the results that people are experiencing, and the work that I'm doing. And if you're in the Orange County, California area and you want to work together in person, reach out. Much love, health, and abundance to all of you.